So, okay, first step, it's to define, I will remove perspective, the place you want to grow your hair from. Okay, I will do that, something like that. Okay, more or less. For the sake of the demo, it will be good enough. Then I'm going to FiberMesh. So by default, FiberMesh will give me a result not very useful for my workflow, because what I want in the end, it's only guides. I don't want as many hair as I have right now. So first thing I'm going to do, it's to set the number of hair like something 2000. Next step, I'm going to set to 0 most of the variant settings here. I can set the length of my hair, so this is very important depending on what kind of hairstyle I want to do. So for instance, so far I want to do something not very long. Oops. Sorry. Okay, something like that. Coverage, basically, it's the thickness of the hair. Since I'm working with not so many hair, I want to have some big coverage. By default, ZBrush with FiberMesh will create only one side polygon. So it's not very useful, because you don't see, on some angle, you don't see your hair. What I want to do is to have some volume on my hair. So I will go to the profile and set the profile to 4 to get some volume. And I will put a segment. Segment, basically, it's the section you will have along your hair. And I will put that to 20. Okay, let's back to the settings now. I will remove the gravity, the twist, here. Gravity, I will set, as I said, everything to 0, 0, 0. Basically, I'm almost done. What I can do, it's also play with the profile of the hair to get the tips a bit larger than the roots a bit larger than the tips. And what I also like to do, it's to put very straightforward color, something very saturated at the roots, and something like white at the tips. That way, I can see very easily my hair, and I understand the flow. I also like to use maybe this one. Oops. Okay. For instance, if you have some hair here, it's because of the mask I did. For some reason, there was some mask in the eyes. Okay. So basically, for the first step, I'm fine with that. It's perfect. I will start working with that. So I will accept this FiberMesh. Okay. Now I'm ready to work. My workflow with FiberMesh for creating guides is actually using only default brush. I'm not using all the grooming brush that come with that brush. I'm kind of used to the old brush, because I'm old, I guess. And so I'm using all basically for my workflow with hair, it's only move tool, snake hook, the pinch, and the Z project. I will showcase the Z project later. In order to use this tool, you need first to go to brush setting, FiberMesh, and to put preserve length at 100. Preserve length basically will make your tool not able to change the length of your hair. Let's see, if I move my hair now, they won't grow as I move them. The only thing I do also, it's put the front collision tolerance to 0. Basically, this setting is telling ZBrush to take the subtool behind the hair in account. I don't want that. I want only to move the hair. I don't want to take care of what's behind there. So now I'm ready. I will basically make my workflow, my flow for the hair. I can work with symmetry for that to get a faster result. Okay, like that. So you can see with this kind of color on the hair, you see really well what's going on. If this kind of stuff happens, I mean the hair going under the skin, you just hold Alt with the Move tool, and you bring back the hair in front of the skin. Okay, maybe I will make the hair going in front, like this. Okay, so when I'm quite happy with that, I will show you the Z project. So far, the hair, if you look on the side of the head, are kind of going too far away from the head. For this kind of short hair, I want something very close to the skin. So I will use that project for that matter. Just turn off that. And what it's going to do, it's project actually my hair directly on the skull. So now I know that my hair are really sticking to the skin. And just to bring them back, I can use my Move tool again with Alt and just like that. Okay. So now I have my hair very close to the surface of the skin, but with a nice flow that I want to get. This workflow, you can use it to get some pitch fuzz, to make some fur, to make lots of stuff. Okay. Once I'm quite happy with the main flow of my hair, now maybe I want to have some longer hair, because I find for some reason that the hair at the front of the head are not long enough. I'm going back to my setting. If you want to go to the setting, FiberMesh. On my custom UI, it's here. So I just put the preserve length to a lower value, something like 30. And now I will be able to grow my hair. I maybe will use the snake hook for this one. Where is it? Here. Something like that. Oh. What I like with this workflow, it's pretty much like sculpting your hair. When you're working with Ornatrix or XGen, I find it's a bit more technical. You can achieve great results, but I like to get some result with my head directly in Zbrush, because most of the time when you're working for production, hair are done at the last time. So most of the time when you're working, sculpting on your head, either you have only that, or you sculpt roughly some hair, but it's not as close as you can get with FiberMesh. So maybe this haircut is fine. Now I will, maybe I want some longer hair. Basically with longer hair, it's the same workflow. I will just show you something great with the hair, FiberMesh. If you're selecting, you want to mask the hair, oops, I'm not on the same here. By default, the lasso curve with the masking pen will mask your polygons. It's the normal behavior. It's the same as if I'm taking the head. It will mask my polygons. But there is one feature that is great with the masking tool. If you're taking the freehand tools, you're not going to mask your polygon, but you're going to mask actually your hair. I don't know if you're seeing the differences. This is great because that way I can select some air very easily, very quickly. For instance, all this, that. And I can make some polygroup of them. Same here. If I want all this to be the same polygroup, yeah. Maybe I want this as a polygroup too, this part too, this part here. And you will see in a few minutes why it is very useful to get this ability to select very quickly your air and to make some polygroup out of it. So, okay, so now I have this. Maybe I want some longer air, as I said. Are we going to work only with this one? So I'm going to take my move tool to take preserve length to 0, and now I will just make some longer air. Okay, just groom the air, the shape you want. So working with a different polygroup, it's very nice because you know if the air on top are really on top of the air. Because it's very easy, for instance, if you're working with air, to move your air, let's say I move this air a bit too much on the back here, and in the end they are going to be going through the other air. But because I have some polygroup, I see that very clearly, and I can select them and just bring them back. And if I want this part to stick more to the surface, I can do, as I said earlier, like that, and I will know that they will be very sticky to the surface, and I can just smooth the air to get something nicer. If I'm doing the same here, I will first Z-project the air, and just smooth out the air. I can make this one a bit longer. I will bring this back. Okay, maybe a bit more. So I said I was using mostly the Move tool, the Z project, and I'm also using the pinch tools. I will show you that. So basically what I'm doing, for instance, I'm going to take that, same, I'm going to do some clamps. So I will start to go more into details now. Like that, like that, like that, for instance. And now that I have all these different polygroup, what I'm going to do is select one, for instance, use my pinch brush, and I can just go there and make some nice clump, and then just move it. I will do the same with this one. Maybe I want something a bit longer, but then I will pinch it to get something like that. Then just move it again. Same here. Okay, I want this to be in front of the here. And, okay, oops, wrong brush. Here, pinch, and move. I have a key for pinch and move, so I can really go fast with this workflow. Maybe there. Another great feature of ZBrush when you're working with polygroup, it's the ability to mask, to do a mask by polygroup. By default, it's an auto masking here. Auto masking, mask by polygroup. It's the same. I have it always on my interface because I really like this feature. Basically, when you put it to 100, when you're going to use the Move tool, for instance, it will only move the subtool, the polygroup you're clicking on first. Okay, like that. So it's easy then to just tweak the air you want. You can do also that with a pinch. Oops. So it will pinch only the first polygroup that you selected. So that way you can work with full air and see everything. Yep. So basically, I'm running out of time. This is the feature I'm using. I don't need any more tools or stuff like that. It's just basically taking more time to groom your hair and do everything you want. Once you're done with all that, the last part, it's to export that. So for that, I'm going to FiberMesh menu, preview settings, and if I click this preview settings, what I'm saying no, it's the actual shapes of the guide that I will be exported. For a character like that, for the workflow we are using a blur, most of the time there are too many guides here. So what I want to do is just to reduce the number of guides. So it's just a preview setting. But the preview setting actually will be the number of guides that you will be exporting. So for my workflow, usually something it's like that, it's kind of good. So now I just go there, oops, right behind, preview settings. Here, export curve, and I can export this curve as OBJ. When you're loading that in 3ds Max or Maya, you can get back the shapes, and then use this guide in Ornatrix to create your hair. And if you want to work, you can keep your setting, but work with the full hair. So basically, that's my workflow with hair.